Today, we'd like to briefly touch on the topic of reapplying to medical school, and specifically tips for students who might find themselves in the position of reapplying or thinking, you know what, I haven't gotten any interviews yet, or it's late in the cycle and things are not looking good. So students also who are thinking that they might need to reapply. And that's really important because it's important to think about it earlier rather than later. As you know, the process of applying to medical school is expensive and it takes a long time. It's a whole year-long process. Just the fees for about 20 to 30 primary and secondary applications can cost about $3,000 or more. So it's important to really make sure that you're ready to apply before you do. Now, if you're in the position of having already applied to medical school and things just aren't looking good, or you already know that you didn't get in anywhere, we have some tips for you today. Starting with tip number 1. First of all, and very important, please do not skip this step. Take a deep breath and tell yourself it's going to be okay. Getting a rejection can be really hard, it can be really emotional. It can take a toll on your self-esteem. Now, your family and friends, they might be confused. They might be wondering, wait, why did you take all these classes and put in all this effort and wait, you're not going to be a doctor? So at least not yet, right? Take the time to acknowledge your emotions and allow space to feel them. We say this over and over again because we really believe that, that is important. If you try to suppress feelings and emotions, they just build up and then they just explode out at a really bad time later. So don't do that, please. So tip number 2 is conduct an autopsy of your failed application. So by that, I mean, look really closely and carefully at what might have gone wrong. I see way too many people who get rejected and then they assume that the reason they got rejected was because of their MCAT or their GPA alone. So maybe you had a 503 and it's really easy to say, well, my score was too low. I need to retake the MCAT. I need to get a 510 or a 515. And then they focus all of their effort on just retaking the MCAT. And they ignore their clinical experiences, their volunteer experiences, their research experiences, their shadowing, the quality of their personal statement, and the quality of their activity descriptions, or their interview skills. So if you focus too much on just those numbers, you might be missing something. Because I'll let you in on a little secret. GPA and MCAT are not the only thing that schools care about. I really cannot emphasize enough how important it is to give yourself enough time to write your application and edit it again and get feedback. Your personal statement has to be clear. It has to be compelling. It has to be free of grammatical and other errors. And it really needs to explain why you want to be a doctor. Your activities need to be clear and they need to keep your reader interested. They can't be too technical and boring because someone reading through a pile of 20 applications, they're going to fall asleep. They're going to think you're not interesting. You also need to have at least 12 activities and ideally 15 when we're talking about the AMCAS application if you want to look competitive. Also, your written application cannot have any red flags. If you come off as arrogant, as naive, as judgmental towards certain groups of people, that is a quick way to get your application just thrown into the rejection pile. The school will not tell you that this is the reason, most likely. But if you have someone who's a good mentor or an editor look at it, or someone who has experience in admissions, they might tell you. It's just hard to find someone who is going to be able to read it in that way and know.